Okay. Well, yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, it's looking pretty good. Mic is a little far away though, so we're gonna. Yeah. Got my tie-dye shirt, pink from Pink. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah. Yeah, this is like my favorite shirt I've ever bought from the store, but you know, we're digging it. We're vibing today. So today's gonna be a fun video. I don't know, I had a good idea kind of this video. A couple of questions I always hear, so I was like, you know, let's do it. Let's let's answer some anti-trans questions that I always see. Yeah. Quickly grab a drink of water. Darn, I'm out of water. Action. Hey guys, how's it going? It's Sam Downey here. Make sure to follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at SamDowney44. Also, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel right now, right here. Yeah. YouTube.com/SamDowney. I'm posting videos here all the time, like music stuff, trans stuff, non-binary stuff, just me talking about random stuff. So you're interested in any of that, you're interested in stuff from Sam Downey, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube. This is kind of like my main social media platform, and then I got like other ones too, but you know, YouTube's where it's at basically. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitch, playing Jackbox games with a bunch of subscribers and fans there. Also, make sure to join the Discord server if you haven't already, you know, because you gotta jump on the Discord server. It's highly recommended, I'll tell you that, so make sure to jump on that. But today's gonna be a fun video. Basically, came up with a list of questions that I see a lot from like anti-trans activists or like right-wing politicians, and I kind of wanted to answer them because I feel like sometimes, you know, they'll give you like fake answers that really aren't realistic answers just to scare people away from trans people or non-binary people. So I wanted to answer some of these questions and really give you the real answer, right? Like the realistic answer, because, you know, some of these answers, like, I feel like, you know, a lot of people think it's the extreme and it's really not that. So honestly, yeah, let's just get right into it really. You know, got a list here and we're gonna answer them all. So the first question is, how can you feel non-binary? So I've actually had a lot of people ask me this question. A lot of people, like, they just can't get around the concept of like feeling non-binary or being non-binary. And the main thing is that I like to explain it as is being non-binary to me, for example, means that I have given up on the gender norms of the social construct of gender in society. So for example, if I go into let's say I go into a clothing store, I'm not gonna look at the tag and see if it's for men or women. I'm gonna buy it if I like it. It doesn't matter if it's specifically designed for women or specifically designed for men. If I like the shirt or I like the pair of pants, I'm gonna buy it. And you know, I feel like a lot of people are still stuck in this like gendered society where, you know, if you're a biological male, you can only buy biological male clothes, and if you're a biological female, you can only buy female clothes. And really, being non-binary to me means I decided to throw that in the trash, you know what I'm saying? And now I just buy whatever I want, and I buy stuff that makes me happy, basically. And I wear what makes me happy, you know what I'm saying? And that's really what it means to feel non-binary to me. Another one is, this is kind of a question, but, so can I be arrested if I don't use your pronouns? That's ridiculous. So I've heard this a lot from right-wing politicians, basically saying that, you know, if you don't use a trans person's preferred pronouns, it's considered like a hate crime, and you can be like arrested for that or be charged for that. And my response to that is no. Like, that has nothing to do with it. Like, you know, in the end, this is a world where you do have the choice to, you know, use someone's preferred pronouns or not. For example, you know, obviously I would want you to use my preferred pronouns. Am I gonna force you to do that? No. In the end, you know, it's really up to you if you want to do that or not. If you're just gonna refuse to use someone's preferred pronouns, you're just being a jerk. That's literally what it is. But it's not like you're gonna go to jail for it, or it's like, you know, someone's gonna charge you for that. But, you know, right-wing politicians like to make up that, like, basically you could be charged or like arrested for not using someone's preferred pronouns. But it really just comes down to, if you don't want to use someone's preferred pronouns, you're just a jerk. That's it. I kind of look at it the same thing as, you know, let's say you're starting a new job and, you know, your given name on your birth certificate is Samuel, for example, like me. And then you go up to your boss and say like, hey, I prefer to be called Sam. Is that okay if you just call me Sam instead of Samuel? And your boss came back at you was like, oh no, well, on your birth certificate it says Samuel, so I'm gonna call you Samuel because it's on your birth certificate. That's kind of the same way I look at preferred pronouns as. It's like, you know, in the end, you don't have to use them for someone, but you're just being a jerk in the end. It's the same with like, yeah, using a preferred name. It's like, you know, if someone just called me Samuel at work because that's on my birth certificate, you just be being a jerk because I asked you to call me Sam and you just didn't care, right? So that's my main answer to that question, basically. Why should a biological male be let into the bathroom with a young girl? You hear this a lot, basically. A lot of people like to use the argument that's like, oh, not every trans person, but you never know if like one or two trans people are in the women's bathroom for another reasons, like, you know, to like sexually assault or like, you know, just to be a creep in general, right? And, you know, I can tell you for a fact that multiple sex offender databases have denied this claim. It is not trans people that are, you know, endangering cis women. Like, it's literally been denied so many times. People just like to use this argument because it's easy. It's an easy argument. And, you know, in the end, I get it. I really understand when people say that, but that's why I'm pro for gender neutral washrooms. And gender neutral washrooms, a lot of people think it's basically you take the signs off of the washrooms and it's just free reign. You have two washrooms and anyone can use them. And that is not true at all. Gender neutral washrooms is a new concept that basically means that everybody has their own private stall. It's like basically a room, right? Like a private room with a toilet in it. And then basically in the hallway is where you wash your hands and, you know, you dry your hands, that kind of stuff. It's in the hallway, right? So that means that everybody in that building can see everyone that's washing their hands and stuff like that. So it's actually a safer concept because in the end, let's be realistic, like, you know, in the women's or the men's washroom, it's a private facility. So what's stopping, you know, another woman from going into the women's washroom and sexually assaulting another woman or, you know, being a creep with another woman? Like, in the end, you know, so this is a safer concept really for everyone. And, you know, that's why, and I feel like just a lot of people think that gender neutral washrooms, like, as I said before, is basically you just take off the signs and it's free reign. It's really not that. It's a different concept for a washroom in general, and it's actually a safer concept in general. Why do we need 500 genders? Okay. So this is a big thing as well. I find this one is really brought up when it comes to people saying that we shouldn't be teaching gender identity or gender ideology to kids in school because, oh, they're gonna have to like memorize all these genders and it's just like confusing to them and everything like that. For example, I identify as gender fluid. I know that isn't a popular term. I know that's not a popular gender identity. So I use non-binary as my umbrella term or trans as my umbrella term. And, you know, if someone who doesn't really know gender ideology, I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm trans or yeah, I'm non-binary because those are the more popular terms. I'm not going to tell them I'm gender fluid or agender or any of those like smaller terms. Those terms are more just for yourself. I find that, you know, the small micro labels are more of a personal thing. Obviously, if someone asks me about my gender identity and is interested in my gender identity, I'm going to tell them like, you know, the more micro labels and everything like that. But in the end, you don't have to know those micro labels to be respectful of a trans person or a non-binary person. And I feel like a lot of people just like to push this concept that you have to know everything to be respectful, and it's really not true at all. And that's why, you know, in the end, I don't think we should be teaching kids about the 500 genders or whatever. In the end, all you got to know is non-binary, trans, and then literally that's it, and preferred pronouns. That's all you really got to know. You don't need to know these micro labels to be respectful, and that's the main thing. Don't you think you'll regret it? Look at all the detransitioners. Oh man, this is a popular one right now. A lot of people like to use, oh, there's so many detransitioners. Like, you see all these stories of detransitioners, and I can tell you for a fact the NHS did a study on detransitioners, and basically 1% of all trans people detransitioned, and that would have been in the UK, right? Because it's NHS, right? In the end, 1%. Like, I don't understand why people are saying there's so many detransitioners. Like, there really isn't. It's just the people that detransition, they're gonna want to share their story, so it looks like basically that there's a bunch of detransitioners, but in the end, that's just the majority of that 1% sharing their story, right? Also, you gotta understand that probably the NHS probably included people who, for example, maybe came out as a trans man, decided to go on T, after a couple of months decided, oh wait, I'm actually non-binary and I don't need T. I don't need to be medically transitioning, and they go off of T. NHS might include those people in detransitioners, but in the end, they didn't really detransition. They just learned more about their gender identity, right? So, you know, in the end, it could be actually less than 1% of people who actually detransition and went back to their biological sex or biological gender, right? I really think the whole detransitioner argument is a really invalid argument, and people need to look at the actual facts because it's literally 1%. It's just people like to make it so much bigger when it really isn't that. It's just, you know, that 1%, the majority of that 1% is going to want to share their story and want to actually talk about it. Because, you know, it is an important discussion to have. Like, I'm not saying, you know, detransitioners are invalid or anything like that. Like, it's an important discussion to have. It's just using that argument to fight trans people isn't a valid argument. To be non-binary, you have to dress androgynous. How can you dress like your biological sex and be non-binary? So I find with this thing, with this kind of concept, a lot of people like to make non-binary a third box, and it really isn't. You know, it's basically, they like to make it, you know, there's male, non-binary, and female, and that's really not the concept at all. Non-binary is basically, you know, it means that you just don't follow gender norms in general. It doesn't mean you have to dress androgynous or anything like that, and I feel like a lot of people will push that, and they almost get like upset when people don't dress androgynous because it's going against their whole third box concept, which really isn't the case. You know, what it really is there's male and female boxes, and then non-binary is kind of like everything around it or everything in between, right? It's not a third box in general. And when you're putting this like stress of oh, you have to be androgynous to be non-binary, all you're doing is basically creating a third box, right? So that's why, you know, in the end, you don't have to dress androgynous to be non-binary. You can dress any way you want because, you know, there could be people that identify more on the female side of the spectrum, but they're still non-binary, and then there might be some people that identify more on the male side of the spectrum and be non-binary as well, or like masculine and feminine, right? So, you know, saying the concept of every single non-binary person is right in the middle and they're androgynous is really an invalid statement and doesn't make sense at all, really. It's just not, it just goes against the whole like non-binary concept in general. Like, non-binary basically means that you're not following society norms or gender norms, right? And yeah, saying a third box, like, you're just creating another box. Like, it's like, yo, we got out of the box, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not in the box anymore. How can you be trans or non-binary and not medically transition? Okay, so I find this one really funny because the people that will say this will also say that, aren't you gonna regret it? Look at all the detransitioners. So it's like, make up your damn mind, bro. Make up your mind. Do you want people to medically transition or not? But yeah, I find a lot of people will kind of say both of these things. My main reason why I believe that you don't need to medically transition to be trans or non-binary is, you know, there are a lot of trans and non-binary people who don't need to medically transition, but if we were pushing this concept that everybody needed to medically transition to be trans or non-binary, I feel like it would actually pressure a lot of people who don't need to medically transition to medically transitioning because they want to be accepted by society. So that's why I believe that you don't need to medically transition to be trans or non-binary, because if that was a mandatory thing, a lot of people would basically feel pressured into medically transitioning. And, you know, I don't understand why we need to pressure people into doing things that they really don't need to do and might, you know, in the end might regret it in the end because they didn't need to do that in the first place. They were just pressured by society. So, you know, when someone says that concept, like, it actually, honestly, that one actually really does kind of annoy me when people say that, because you're pressuring people into surgeries and hormones that they don't need. And like, I don't understand why you'd want to pressure someone and then you'd also want to go and spin it around with someone who wants to medically transition and be like, oh, well, look at all the detransitioners. It's like, yo, make up your mind. I don't know, like, what do you want? What do you want from trans people? Like, it's like, yo, just accept every trans person as them. Like, every transition is different. And, you know, having this concept of like, oh, every transition is cookie cutter, it's so invalid and it makes no sense to me. It's like, why would you have that concept? It makes no sense. But that's just kind of how it goes, I guess. Yeah, that's really about it for this video. You know, I hope you guys did learn something today. I wanted to kind of have like an educational video for people and just, you know, just to affirm people as well if you've had anyone ask these questions to you, because, you know, you are valid no matter what. You know, the non-binary identity is a valid identity and it is a real thing. And, you know, a lot of people in this world will tell you that it's not a real thing, but that's really not true when people say that. You know, like, the non-binary community has millions of people, and, you know, the trans community has millions of people, and I'm sorry, you know, there wouldn't be millions of people saying they're non-binary if it wasn't a real thing. So, you know, in the end, that's really, yeah, literally, like, if there wasn't, there wouldn't be a million people or over a million people saying they're non-binary if it wasn't a thing, period. That's it. That's really it. Like, that it's as easy as that. So if anyone ever tells you like, oh, being non-binary isn't a thing, oh, it's not real, just literally point them in the direction of, okay, what's this community then? What is it? Like, are we just hanging out? We just chilling? Like, no, we're non-binary. Besides that, you know, you guys know everybody here is valid no matter what. I'll use whatever pronouns or anything or any name that you want me to call you no matter what, because you are valid no matter what. But yeah, really besides that, if you want to support the channel even more, feel free to join me on Patreon or join the channel right here. I really do appreciate any dollar that anybody gives me. You know, I am paying for my hormones out of pocket, so it really does help in that sense. But obviously no pressure or anything. I'm looking to create free content for everyone. Also, make sure to join the Discord server if you haven't already. I know I mentioned it before, but you're going to want to join that if you're looking to meet some more like-minded people or like-minded fans and subscribers. So make sure to join that if you haven't already. And yeah, besides that, make sure to follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at SamDowney44. Also, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel right here. That's youtube.com/SamDowney. Do it. Whoa, I had like a burp thing. Make sure to do that though, you know, turn on those notifications, ring that bell, and yeah, really besides that, guys, thanks so much for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace!